untouched in our history. These structures were built with enduring materials and envisioned by brilliant engineers. This heritage has found its way into our future with Ultratech cement. No other cement can claim to have the highest 28-day compressive strength. Chosen by the very best engineers, Ultratech cement stands the test of time. Stronger with time.
Protecting every engine across every journey with the globally recognized API certification. Servo Engine Oil, the choice of discerning motorists. From Lanka IOC.
Indian culture is a galaxy of diverse conventions. Flora and fauna. Rituals, cuisines, costumes, artwork, handicrafts, music, magic of cinema, festivals, folklore, Indian culture, a celebration of diversity.
Join us for the Media Fest.
A very good morning to you and a warm welcome to the Media Fest, Sri Lanka's first ever media festival. And it's lovely to see such a beautiful audience this morning. And the Media Fest is hosted by the Sri Lanka India Media Friendship Association. And today, ladies and gentlemen, marks the beginning of an exciting journey into the evolving world of media. With panel discussions, workshops, and interactive sessions lined up for you this morning throughout the day, we'll be diving into very deep topics like AI in journalism, content creation, disinformation, podcasts, and many more. It's a day to learn, connect, and explore the future of media together. To officially set the tone for today's exciting lineup, it's my pleasure to now invite someone who has been a driving force behind this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairperson of the Sri Lanka India Media Friendship Association and also the founder, editor, Daily Financial Times, Mr. Nista Qasim, to deliver the welcome address. Can we give him a big round of applause, please?
Good morning, Sri Lanka. Good morning, India. And good morning, Media Fest. How is your energy today? Are you all excited? I'm excited because today we are creating history in terms of hosting the Sri Lanka's first ever media festival. And this achievement is thanks to Sri Lanka India Media Friendship Association, president of which happens to be me, and also to our patron, the Indian High Commission, which was instrumental in setting up the one-of-its-kind media association. So it's a privilege to welcome everyone. And creating history is not easy, but I need to acknowledge support of our sponsors, starting from platinum sponsor Ultratech Cement, silver sponsors Lanka IOC, Indian External Ministry's Economic Diplomacy Division, Sri Lankan Airlines, who was gracious enough to fly down our Indian leaders here, Taj Samudra Hotel, creative partner Triad, outdoor partner Richardson, even managed Dream Team, gift partners Spa Ceylon and Dilma Tea. Today we will have an enriching, insightful, and fun day. You'll be empowered by new knowledge, networking, and friends. It's a privilege to welcome our Indian celebrities or leaders from media industry of India, Palki Sharma, Shailesh Shekhar, Siddhant Sibal, and L.V. Krishnan. It's indeed an honor to have you specially flown into Sri Lanka's first ever media festival, and we are very thankful for being part of this historic day. We also have a host of Sri Lankan media experts, representatives from different medium, TV, print, radio, who are chosen as per their field of expertise to add value to all our participants. And I'd like to thank all our participants in terms of, from SIMPA perspective, and you will benefit immensely from today's deliberations. It's a festival of keynotes, breakout sessions, workshops, and panel discussions where we will deep dive some of the key trends impacting media in general, as well as part of the region. And I think Palki's keynote will also talk about collaboration between India and Sri Lanka media. I want to thank everyone today being part of the Media Fest, and I'd like to thank my Slimfa Media Fest entire team for their valuable inputs over the last few weeks and months. So let us begin the celebrations and let us enjoy Media Fest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nista Qasim, for setting the tone and also for taking us through what we can expect throughout the day at the Media Fest. And ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for a very special part of the morning. Before we move ahead, let's watch a short video from First Post that will introduce our keynote speakers. So please turn your attention to the screen.
Palki Sharma reports from Tel Aviv, Colombo, Wuhan, Bogota. Welcome to this special edition of Vantage.
Merci beaucoup. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Namaste, Mr. President.
Bharat Kelogon, Komeri Namaste.
Live from the White House, the excitement, the tension is palpable. You can see the security presence, you can see the number of police cars. As the night progressed, numbers came in thick and fast, and Donald Trump was soon declared the winner. This Trump hat, it says, President Trump save America. But this hat is made in China. And this is the Chinese interference that Americans must be investigating. Another American presidency will begin. In Donald Trump's case, his second one. Fan of Italy's famous cuisine? Well, we are serving it with a side of diplomacy. Giorgia Meloni has emerged as a firm and reliable Western ally. High taxes and low spending on public services. It's the perfect austerity measure. But it's also the perfect way to drive people away from your country, and that's what's happening in Sri Lanka. Do you think that maybe the bitter pill was too bitter?
I don't think the bitter pill was too bitter. We had to take a pill at some time and someone had to take a decision.
We're in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America, where Prime Minister Modi will arrive for his first state visit. The White House isn't the only landmark built by slaves. This is an ad for a gun, and nowhere else have I seen something like this. We were on our way to Tel Aviv, and as you can see, sirens sounding. This was one of the first sites of the attack by Hamas terrorists. Did the Iron Dome fail?
We were actually very successful. Iron Dome failed.
The US and China are the two biggest polluters on this planet, but their presidents are a no-show. The BAPS Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi, a symbol of harmony between two civilizations. We need to build trust. What was your impression? And those same leaders are still in office, Prime Minister Modi and Minister Jaishankar.
Well, first, I'm hopelessly biased. I love them both.
The world stands with us against Chinese expansionism. The global South looks up to us for leadership. The global North looks up to us for partnership. I think that's the hallmark of great diplomacy and statecraft, when you're loved and respected in all quarters. More importantly, when you're trusted in all quarters. President De Silva, welcome to First Post. Nigerian delegation was the first to arrive. With me is Mr. Piyush Goyal. Seem to have further muddled an already complicated situation. 8 coordinated blasts in multiple cities. This is the Mount Everest base camp.
You're almost ready to shoot, but you need to remove your finger from here.
Normalized stance against. Western analysts said Kabul could fall in 30 days. Why Jews left their ancient homeland in the first place.
Ladies and gentlemen, now that we've had a glimpse of the remarkable individual leading this session, it's time to hear from her in person, delivering the keynote address on challenges and opportunities for media in South Asia, the power of collaborative journalism. Please join me in warmly welcoming Ms. Palki Sharma, Managing Editor of First Post. The stage is yours.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, namaskar. I stand before you here today after what has been a difficult week for us. India suffered a terrorist attack in Kashmir's Pahalgam. 26 tourists were killed by Pakistani terrorists. As an Indian citizen, as a journalist, and as a human being, one has felt grief and anger. Old wounds have been opened, old challenges stare us in the face. At a time like this, speaking about collaboration in South Asia can be tough. And I was wondering what I was going to say as I got on the flight yesterday. I also realized that we've been here before. So I'll start by repeating what I said on my show in the aftermath of the attack. That to call it a cycle of terrorism and denial implies a sense of inevitability. But what's happening here is not inevitable. Together we can break this pattern by setting the record straight. And it's imperative that we do now more than ever, also because where we come from. I think in most parts of the world, journalism is a relatively straightforward affair. You tell your audience what has happened. A court case, a cricket match, a new piece of legislation, a corruption scandal. You tell the story. It's not so simple for us. Here, we can't just be happy telling the story, because what we say is the world's window into South Asia, into our society, our culture, our politics, our aspirations. And that adds a whole different dimension, a whole new level of pressure and responsibility to our jobs as journalists, because this is not just about reporting, it is also about shaping the world's opinion of us. If we leave it to Western media, they will turn South Asia into entertainment fodder, with a lot of crass stereotypes and little understanding or sensitivity as to who we are as a people. The usual stories about poverty, political chaos, weddings on elephants, and overly dramatic movies. But we know that South Asia is a lot more than that. We are a region of 2.2 billion people with dozens of languages, dozens of cultural intricacies, and many, many aspirations. If we are to take our rightful place in the world, we must take charge of our stories. We must tell our stories. We need to create a narrative that is fit for our society. And I often think we have global forums, we have regional forums, we have groupings, we have alliances on a whole lot of issues: trade, connectivity, security, climate action. Why not media? As leaders of the region meet, I would urge them to consider media as a potential area of collaboration. Because when we present the right picture before the world, we create the right perception, and it matters very much. When a business is looking to diversify into your country, an investor who's looking to put money in your country, a student who's looking to study in your country, a professional who's looking to relocate and work in your country, will base their decision on their perception of who we are and what we have to offer. So it makes political, economic, and strategic sense to take charge of our stories, to tell our stories ourselves. We know we cannot do it alone. So we must collaborate and engage with each other. There are many ways to do it. There are also many, many challenges. I hope to lay out both today. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is politics and polarization, both of which are rampant in our part of the world. Unfortunately, it's also filtering into newsrooms and media reportage, and that can be a dangerous thing. Our default setting is to think as Indian journalists, Sri Lankan journalists, Bangladeshi journalists, Pakistani journalists, but not South Asian journalists. And if you're only covering domestic issues, that should not be a problem. But when we cover issues which have a regional dimension, which have regional relevance, then it's important to have a regional lens. If not, our stories can be skewed at best and contradictory at worst. And I'm not saying that as journalists we should be disconnected or de-link ourselves from national interest. We should not. I think we should be thinking on two tracks. A, what is good for my country, and B, how can I make it good for the region? And this is the approach that we need to adopt, to use a regional lens to tell stories from South Asia. Why don't we do it? Well, there are many reasons, but I think the biggest one is politics. Today, if the governments of India and Sri Lanka decide to undermine each other, it will be very hard for journalists on either side to collaborate. So political fractures in South Asia have hampered media collaboration. And I'm not just talking about news media. You can look at music, you can look at movies. We consume content created and produced in each other's countries, but in terms of engagement, we have very little. And even when we do, it is at the mercy of political ties. So that is one challenge. The second challenge is misinformation, which is an industry in itself. I was just reading some numbers. South Asia's internet connectivity has doubled in the last decade. Doubled. Our region leads all others when it comes to the number of online users. So we are a big market. Unfortunately, that also means that misinformation spreads very fast in South Asia on social media platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, X. And this poses a twin challenge. One, because these companies are all based in the US. There is very little you can do. They will only answer to the American government. You cannot have Mark Zuckerberg deposed before your parliamentary committee. You can try. The other challenge is that these platforms are increasingly doing away with fact-checking. So going forward, misinformation will spread faster on a bigger scale. And I think it would be unfair to just blame social media, because traditional media, mainstream media, has also been guilty of this. We've been caught carrying misinformation about other countries. And this is a reality that we need to address and accept. Why can't an editor sitting in Dhaka call up an editor in Kathmandu to verify a piece of information? I can speak from personal experience. I'm sure my colleagues from India would agree. Some of us have visited Sri Lanka multiple times over the last few years. I've covered arguably every big story that has happened in the past few years in this country. And it's not been easy. Even though we track developments here very closely, I'm sure you'd agree that ground reporting is a different ballgame altogether. And you cannot match the expertise, the reach, and the understanding of a local reporter. There have been multiple times when I've felt the need to share notes with someone who has a better grasp of the situation. Thankfully, over the years, I've also made friends here, and a lot of you have been kind enough to share with me what you know. But we don't have a framework. It would have helped the first time I came here. It would help those who come in the months and years ahead. So this is the sort of cooperation and engagement we must strive for. The third challenge is the lack of adequate funding And the pandemic, I would say, has exacerbated it. There's been cost cutting across the board, waves of layoffs. That is a classic sign of distress. Good content needs good investment. It is relatively easy and cheaper for an influencer to create a makeup video or tutorial or a dress-up reel. But if you want to create in-depth news stories which are engaging with original content, you need investment, you need technological investment, you need manpower investment. This lack of funding also has a direct impact on the scope of collaboration in South Asia, because then, as newsroom leaders, we have a choice to make. With your limited resources, where do you deploy it? Do you deploy it in covering stories in your country, or do you deploy it in collaborative programs? And that's a tough and unfair choice to make. I know a lot of people are exploring the subscription model for news. I think it's a noble idea. I've always said that if you want news platforms to work for you, you have to pay for it. Otherwise, those platforms are working for advertisers or vested political interests. I think on paper this is a solid argument, but I'm afraid in practice it has not taken us very far. Also because this is South Asia, it's a price-sensitive market for anything, let alone news, or especially news. In the digital age, I think consumers believe that news is a public good and it should be free. So what do? We can either spend time and effort in trying to convince people that good news content cannot be free, or we can challenge social media and tech platforms and tell them to not make money off our content. Ideally, we should be doing both. There are countries that have done it, countries like Canada and Australia, where media companies have challenged tech giants. But here we are not even talking about it. And look at our numbers. We are a very big market. We have lots of platforms. If we decide to join ranks and speak in one voice, we can push the needle. Our voice could be heard. A fourth challenge, according to me, is censorship. Some countries are dealing with tighter government regulation. In other cases, the media itself is self-censoring. When regimes change, when there is more religious polarization, when economies crash, when geopolitical equations change, the media tends to cash in on the trend. It does compromise our credibility, this sort of reactive journalism. But I think we'll all agree that the bigger challenge is government pressure and censorship. How do you fight it? By arming yourselves with the power of numbers. When you have a loyal and growing audience, when you have solid financial records, when you have allies across the border, then you become a force to reckon with. And that is what we should aim for, to come together and collaborate as partners, not rivals. The fifth challenge, I think, is technology. Because news media is not just about the content we create, it is also about how we disseminate it, how do we take it to the audience. In South Asia, most consumers use their phone, use social media to consume content, and most of us have been late to the trend. Now we are catching up. But here's the thing about technology. With technology, catching up is a myth, because by the time you think you've caught up, the next one is already on the horizon. In this case, it's artificial intelligence. It is here. It is changing the way we create news. It is already taking jobs. It is transforming the news landscape. So what do? First of all, we must protect our content. We must make sure that our content is not being used by these tech companies to train their AI bots. There are media houses in the West that have sued AI giants. But again, we are not even having this conversation. We don't even know if and what part of our content is being used to train AI bots. The second thing we need to do is to be open-minded, be clear-eyed about the challenges, about the ethical dilemmas that AI poses, but also it makes no sense to live in denial because this technology is coming, whether we like it or not. So we might as well embrace it and try to ace it. It is a disruption. But AI could also be the X factor that helps us scale. So it's important to keep an open mind. I think these are the 5 main challenges to news media collaboration in South Asia: politics and polarization, misinformation, lack of funds, censorship, and technological disruption. It is important to address all of these because our region has immense potential, possibly more than any other. What we need is cohesion. And I leave the policy bits to governments. They will take their time. I've learned over time to moderate my expectations. But let's focus on what we can do as journalists. We can help South Asians understand each other better. We can reduce the trust deficit. And it should not be that hard because historically, this has been a well-connected region. We have a centuries-long history of engagement and cultural interaction. Our music sounds similar. Our food uses the same ingredients. Our religions are shared. Our languages are shared. Our region is ripe for closer collaboration. And this is where the media comes in. We cannot let rhetoric or misplaced nationalism dictate our opinion of each other. We should strive to focus on shared priorities, build a sense of trust and respect. If people like each other, that is half the battle won. So I guess the obvious question is, how do we do it? I think it's important to start with the low-hanging fruits, to focus on stories and issues that are of common interest and concern. Climate change is one, unsustainable debt, poverty alleviation. They largely do not have a political dimension or a strategic point of conflict. So these are the issues we can focus on. We can learn from each other. Maybe the Maldives has some plans, has some policy solutions on how to deal with rising sea levels that Sri Lanka could learn from. Maybe Bhutan has figured out sustainable tourism that Nepal could learn from. Unless we share these stories, we will never know. Secondly, we need more engagement on news content. There used to be a time when most Indian news platforms had correspondents in most of the capitals in the region. But that era is behind us. If we cannot have correspondence, if we cannot exchange correspondence, we should exchange ideas, we should interact. Joint training programs, joint production, even a Zoom call. I would say any conversation is better than none. And finally, we should explore non-news collaboration. I just mentioned rallying for internet companies to pay up. That is one area where we can work together. The other area is to focus on the safety of journalists and workplace rights. And here I want to mention Afghanistan. This is a country where our women colleagues have been systematically erased from the media landscape. What is stopping us from speaking up for them? And there have been instances of such collaboration, but not enough. We saw this in the Pandora Papers investigation, when news outlets from South Asia joined hands to expose the rich and powerful. We've also seen joint broadcasts by TV channels, including between India and Pakistan. And these get eyeballs, they have a shock value. But they're not scalable, they're not sustainable. You don't do that over a period of time. And I'm not saying that we should not aim for these high visibility projects. I'm saying let's focus on the low-hanging fruit first. And governments, of course, can play a role in making it easier. If they give impetus to South Asian unity, media outlets can take a cue and run with it. Governments can invite journalists from the region for major political events, make travel and visa rules easier. All of this will help, but the main thrust and push has to come from us. And I think that is why initiatives like this one are so very important. Let me congratulate the Sri Lanka India Media Friendship Association for hosting this event, for bringing us all together, so many colleagues from the region in one room. It's a fantastic opportunity to exchange ideas, to work towards new goals, and just a chance to catch up. I can only hope that other countries will take a cue from this and build on it, because we need to have these conversations now. It's a very dangerous and uncharted media territory out there. There are players with deeper pockets, and in many cases also with sinister agendas, if I may add. And in times like these, we need to have each other's back. We have the talent, we have the stories, we have the audience. All we need is to stop working in silos and build something together. Because I repeat, if we don't tell our stories, someone else will. And chances are, they will get it wrong again. Thank you.
We'd like to open the floor for a couple of questions. So if you have any, we can accommodate like around 2 or 3 questions. Yes, we have someone from that end. Can we pass the mic, please?
Hello, Ms. Sharma. Thank you very much for your opening remarks and for your speech. Thank you very much for coming to Sri Lanka. I have a very simple 3-part question to you, so let me be precise. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, now.
Thank you. My question is very simple. It's a 3-part question, and let me be very specific as possible. What does nationalism mean to you? And you spoke about the regional perspective and coming together. So I would like to know what nationalism means to you. Can it be reconciled with a regional perspective and collaboration, because you start from a nationalism point of view and then you try to come together as a region? And lastly, do you consider yourself a nationalist? And if yes or no, what is your personal approach and attitude towards it? That's my simple question.
I'll start with the last one. I am very much a nationalist. To me, as a journalist, nationalism means celebrating the wins, focusing on the challenges, having frank conversations. I know that there are many definitions and many, many ways to understand, but this is how I think this is what nationalism means to me, that you have to focus on what is right. You also have to understand that we don't use our platforms and our voice and our influence to get caught into someone else's game. And that is very much a reality of our times. I said that there are players with sinister agendas. There are people who are looking to distort narratives for whatever reasons. It is important to understand that. I am very much a nationalist, but when I'm on a global platform, I don't seek certificates of neutrality from others. How do we reconcile nationalism with regional interest? Like I said, there are a lot of areas with shared interest, common concern that we can work together. It is not possible in the case of, I started with India and Pakistan. How do you work with the Pakistani media in this environment. You cannot. In an ideal world, as neighbors, we coexist peacefully, but this is not an ideal world. So we build on whatever common ground we have, and we take it from there. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And any more questions? We have one here. Can we pass the mic, please?
Palki, thank you very much, and so nice to hear your points, very logical. Same thing in a different way, what the other gentleman asked. See, perceptions are so important, and your role as a journalist and all the people here as a journalist, so important. What has happened in America in terms of tariff, the changes, it is disturbing entire world. So I fully believe that journalism and perception creation is very, very important. In this type of situation, how can we expedite this perception building towards the right direction? Would you like to share your views?
Invest in media. We invest in, it can be a slightly controversial take. See, we have to look at media as a strategic asset, right? And countries have big budgets for defense, 2% of GDP, 4% of GDP. But we don't look at media in the same way, at least in this part of the world. In the West, they have. The BBC was set up to send a certain message about the British Raj to their colonies. These are powerful, well-funded platforms, and they're doing the job that they were set up for. I'm not taking away from the work that many journalists do there, but I can also see the larger purpose that some of these platforms serve. So we have to invest in our media. I said it in the past that when the New York Times writes something about some of our leaders, it becomes a matter of parliamentary debate. But when our newspapers write something, nobody bothers. We don't have that edge. We need to build it to be able to put our point across.
I think we have one more question from that end. Yes.
Hi, Palki.
Hi.
Huge fan. Thank you for being the Christian Amanpour of our time. It's amazing. And just one question. What are your thoughts on music journalism from Asia?
Music journalism. I've never dwelled on it enough. Maybe I should. I think we have a rich repository. We should be able to do more. I don't think we do enough. So if you're one of the journalists who's focusing on music, kudos to you, and may your tribe grow.
Shukriya.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Ms. Palki Sharma for that very insightful and informative keynote address. And I'd like to remain on stage because we want to present a token of appreciation. So to do the honors, I'd like to invite the chairperson of SLIMFA, Mr. Nista Qasim, and the festival director, Mr. Santosh Menon, to please do the honors. Please to the center. Thank you very much once again.
Ambitious king engineers and skilled craftsmen built vast kingdoms that are etched in our history. These structures were built with enduring materials and envisioned by brilliant engineers. This heritage has found its way into our future with Ultratech cement. No other cement can claim to have the highest 28-day compressive strength. Chosen by the very best engineers, Ultratech cement stands the test of time. Stronger with time.
Protecting every engine across every journey with the globally recognized API certification. Servo Engine Oil, the choice of discerning motorists. From Lanka IOC.
Join us for the Media Fest.
Ladies and gentlemen, now as we dive into our very first panel discussion, which is on AI and journalism, integrating technology for impactful journalism, it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator who will guide us through this engaging conversation. A seasoned journalist with a wealth of experience in news media, she serves as the editor of Newswire. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Kalani Kumarasinghe to take this discussion forward. Over to you, Kalani.
Thank you, Sharifa. Good morning, everyone. We are running a little bit late, so I will try to keep this as brief as possible. And of course, I'm very much aware that it's going to be a difficult task to hold your attention after that fabulous speech by our guest today. So today we do find ourselves at a crossroads of incredible opportunity as well as incredible responsibility. Today we'll explore how AI is reshaping journalism as a tool of efficiency and a catalyst for creativity. So let me introduce my panelists today for the panel AI in Journalism, Integrating Technology for Impactful Storytelling. May I welcome the gentlemen on stage, please. Our first guest from India is Mr. Shailesh Shekhar, who's the Chief Synergy Officer at the India Today Group, where he leads the integration of editorial, technological, and strategic functions to drive innovation and growth across platforms. He returned to India Today Group in June 2024 after an 11-year tenure at Microsoft, where he served as the APAC Regional Director for Microsoft Start, overseeing content operations across 13 countries and 10 languages. Welcome, Mr. Shailesh. Our next guest is Dr. Romesh Ranavana, who is a leading Sri Lankan expert in artificial intelligence, and analytics with a career spanning entrepreneurship, technology leadership, and public policy. He currently serves as the chair of the Sri Lanka's National Artificial Intelligence Advisory Committee and leads AI and analytics initiatives as Group Chief Analytics and AI Officer at Dialog Axiata PLC. Dr. Ranavana previously co-founded 2 companies and is the founder of Enterprise Machine Learning Private Limited. Welcome Dr. Ranavana to stage. We also have Mr. Kalindu Karunaratne, who is very well known by the Sri Lankans here. He's a prominent Sri Lankan journalist and media personality, currently serving as the manager, current affairs at TV Dharana, one of the country's leading television networks. He's best known as a primetime news anchor and talk show host on Ada Dharana, where he covers major political, social, and economic developments. Welcome, Mr. Kalindu. Of course, his dynamic presence in Sri Lankan media landscape is an inspiring figure for young journalists. Welcome, gentlemen. I hope everyone's comfortable, and I hope I can retain your attention. So let's ask first things first from Mr. Shekhar. We are trying to explore how AI is transforming our newsrooms. Can you explain to us, with your experience, how has AI transformed the particular newsroom that you are serving, and what kind of examples do you think Sri Lanka can learn from?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So, journalists, we have always had this apprehension that there's something called AI, something bad is going to happen to us. As an editor, and I'm an out-and-out editorial person, and I've always realized that technology has always enabled us more than, created dent for us. It's made me more efficient always. So I always felt that we need to treat AI as an ally. And that's what we have been doing at India Today Group, also. I did this at Microsoft also at scale. And at India Today Group, which is nearer to all of you to explain, we are a pretty large company by size in terms of our business. We are across print, we are television, we are digital, we do on-ground events. Across all these formats, we run a centralized news turbine, which is taking input consistently and publishing across platforms, across mediums, across feeds. To do all of this, we need a lot of people. We are a lot of people, but then there are only so many of us, right? We still want to do 29 more things. And where are these so many more people? Where is there so much more talent? There's only so much of us. And then there are people like us who also want to do newer things, right? Beyond the drudgery of the daily operation, come in, do these 29 stories, go find that, and then I'm all consumed and I go home and then get ready for the next day. So that's where, this new technology, we've seen several technologies. I would say AI is just the new technology. Yes, it's much more powerful, it's much more effective, it's much more efficient, but then that should come to my aid. That's what we've been doing, so I don't know how many of you know, but about 2 years ago, we launched India's first AI news anchor. We thought she would also become intelligent, but technology really hasn't kept pace. She's not intelligent, right? She only does what we ask her to do. So I'm just trying to illustrate a point that editors always will remain in control of what technology does for us. Let's not fear it, let's embrace it, let's use it to our advantage. One of the things that we are doing at India Today, just to answer Kalani's specific question, is we are trying to integrate technology into our workflow, publishing workflow, so that, you know, when we work as journalists, we do a story, but story is just an output, but it has several tasks. A lot of those tasks contribute to that final output. A lot of these tasks can be automated, can be made more efficient. I'm the boss. I'll tell, hey, why don't you go get me these 5 codes? Why don't you go do this research from these 5 sources? Then I'll sit down and piece together everything. I'm able to tell these things to the machine now. So instead of clicking 10 sites that I go every day, I tell my process, go click these sites, find this information. Yeah, so this is the spread of the India Today group for you guys, just in case if you don't know about lots of these things. So we're trying to automate that process. So what we are doing is see how we can create a process that, and it's internally in testing right now. We have come off, we have matured it that well that there are teams which have started using it. So we've created personas for the work that we do. So machine knows I'm so-and-so, or I'm a technology editor, here's what you need to do. I've given it my editorial guidelines instead of just keeping it to me, so that it then creates that defined output, which doesn't surprise me, which is what we need as editors, you know. This whole fear of hallucination, of what will happen, fake news. We control everything. We tell the machine what it needs to do, and the machine does that. So the moment you do that, it's one-time work. It's, of course, iterative, but one-time work. You define the persona, you define the editorial guidelines, and you tell the machine this is what you need. You go, just give your inputs, because I decide as a journalist what story I want to do today, what's the angle I want to take, what's the peg today. That the machine will never decide, we'll decide. You go tell the machine, it recognizes me, checks my editorial guidelines, creates the drafts for me, which I then review, make whatever amendments I need to make, put it in that operational process, pictures, videos, all machine helps me. Then I sit down. That's my starting point. Earlier I was starting there, now I'm starting here. So if my journey was 1 hour, it's probably down to 10 minutes now. Even if I gave it another 20 minutes review, I'm still 100% better on productivity. So I have more time to, yes, she's telling me hurry up.
So much for trying to be
and I'll
subtle.
finish in 30 seconds. So to actually, we all need to become more efficient, right? To do more things, you know, to focus on things that I want to do, rather than just being consumed by the operation of the day.
Thank you so much. So much for trying to be subtle. I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a taskmaster. Ask everyone in the team, they'll know. My next question is to you, Dr. Ramesh, because journalists tend to think only from our perspective. What can you tell me if I ask you, is AI merely a tool just for efficiency? Now, we saw, as Mr. Shailesh illustrated with his map, the amount of, the number of areas that they use AI in. But I don't think that's quite the case in Sri Lanka, if we are being very honest. What do you think? Can AI just be a tool for efficiency, or can it be more than that? How do you think journalists can use it to be more creative?
It's a really good question, Kalyan. Good morning, everybody. So, AI is definitely a tool. It's a tool to augment just about anybody out there. And just like over the 90s, over the early 2000s, we went through a transformation in society of everybody now working with a computer, to everybody working with a mobile phone, to having access to the internet. What we are seeing quite soon is everybody will be working with an AI assistant in some form whatsoever. And that's, you know, already a given that's happening in our companies. But let me just go back in history a little bit. If you take the journalistic process, the field of journalism is probably one of the areas which has undergone some of the largest transformation over history. From the printing press to the telegraph to television, to the internet, to computers. Every single time this new technology came through, what we saw was a massive transformation in the journalistic process. From, if you break it down in a very simplistic way, to information gathering and research, to compiling the article, and then finally, how you're going to disseminate or publish your articles. Every single one of these technologies has made a profound impact on how you collect your information, how you do the writing, and how you disseminate. And what we've seen is these transformations happening. What we've seen with the internet, with AI as well, is tools which fit into these different stages of the process. What we see is AI now being used heavily in many news organizations for initial research, information gathering, fact-checking, those type of things. Then the second part of actually putting the article together, coming up with drafts, coming up with ideas, coming up with narratives, and then once you write the whole article, how do you customize it to different, like what you showed earlier, you have so many different channels. You may take that same article, but you publish it in different ways depending on the channel. And that, if you do it manually, it's just not scalable for organizations. Also, the amount of news that people now want to consume, the quantity of news, for example, let's say the Olympics is going on. What we have is hundreds and hundreds of sports events going on daily, and people want to know instant results on exactly what's going on. And what we saw was, news organizations like the Washington Post have developed their own internal systems like Heliograph, where this monitors these feeds in real time and is able to publish facts, just facts. It's not opinion pieces or anything like that. So what you got to look at is AI is essentially a tool to augment how you already do things. It doesn't change the journalistic process, but it allows you to do certain things faster and also do certain things, do more of certain things, like especially things like deep research. Going really deep, analyzing thousands and thousands of articles is just not feasible for a normal journalistic organization. So you got to look at it like that, but the core of journalism, the integrity, the storytelling, the experience is still there. You could use AI to automate delivery of news or delivery of certain facts, but the actual journalism piece is still dependent on people. And if you ask me if AI gets it wrong, who is at fault? It's still the journalist, because it's a journalist's responsibility to make sure that anything published is still vetted. Any AI that's used by any journalistic organization has to be under the control, the purview of a human being.
All right.
Yeah?
That's quite a lot to think about. Kalindu, my next question is for you, and let's you and I be real. We spend most of our days in a newsroom, so tell me, how do you think, of course, we know how it's supposed to be used, we have an idea about that, but tell me, how are Sri Lankan journalists currently using AI in their newsrooms? Let's be very realistic and
I think we are forced to start this conversation now, and we are lagging behind. We are far behind. I think we spend time talking about the negative side of it rather than talking about the opportunity. So we had the fear when we spoke about AI. We were worried about whether we will lose our jobs when this comes in. And now when we look at globally, when we see this technology is transforming how the journalism is done, now we have to start the conversation. I think for your question, Kalani, most of the newsrooms in Sri Lanka still don't have an organized manner they use AI. Individually, we do. Like, we come up with our own content, but we don't have the kind of guidelines we need to follow. And we have to start really quickly if we are to go forward in this. I think, in my personal opinion, the station I work for, we are using artificial intelligence to get manual tasks like transcripting and summarizing things done. But more advanced things, I think we what we believe is we have to set us few guidelines before we do it, because it's also about the credibility. Because I also think there should be a lot of training programs for us if we have to go forward. And we really should come up with a proper plan now. And I agree with you that we have not done anything significant, but it's a time we should start.
Thank you for agreeing with me. This is for the media stakeholders. Listen to us. We need a plan, and we'll come to Dr. Ramesh for help and advice. Before I go on to my next round of questions, I would like to remind the audience that there will be a brief Q&A session, and we will try to accommodate as many questions as possible in all Sinhala, Tamil, and English languages. Our volunteers will assist you with that when the time comes. Since we are running short on time, let me put this question to the three of you. A few journalist friends of mine who I think are here, recently we were having a chat, and then we decided to do a small experiment. With each of our phones, we decided to ask, generative AI to tell us who the top 10 journalists are in the South Asian region. I don't think we were surprised, but we were surprised about how wildly different the answers were. Not that any of it was inaccurate. It's just that it also reflected sometimes our own biases, and we were concerned about that, and sometimes how much we use our own GPT accounts or whatever it is. So it honestly gave us such different pictures. And then we had a whole other conversation about what this means. Because when we do use AI in the newsroom, we don't have that opportunity or the time to discuss the results. We just have to go with it sometimes, especially if you're working in breaking news. So how do we overcome this? I will ask the working journalist first. Kalindu, what do you think we should, how do we
That's where the
this?
editorial judgment is still very important, because we can't depend on it. I think gentleman who started this panel very clearly explained it. Because if we depend on AI tools to tell us what we should publish, I think we'll be in trouble. And especially in Sri Lanka, when we talk about this from a Sri Lankan perspective, I think we are facing a huge challenge because we don't have our own AI tools. And there's this language barrier also. And tools that we use are fed details from a sometimes Western context. And we have to have our own opinion about what the AI tool tells us. I think that's where the editorial judgment is very important.
Dr. Ramesh?
Yeah, so let me explain this using a slightly technical version of this. So the true power of AI is that AI is able to fill in the blanks of what you haven't specified. So if you ask a question, saying, who is the most popular person in Sri Lanka, it will make its own assumptions on what is the definition of being popular. But if you ask a question saying, who is the most popular film artist in Sri Lanka, then it gets more context. The more context you add to your question, the more directed the answer is going to be. Which is why we now understand that the ability, using an AI tool and knowing how to use an AI tool properly is very, very different. Which is now we understand, just like basic IT skills are important for just about any employee, knowing how to prompt and interact with AI tools effectively is now becoming one of the most essential tools. A year ago, we thought prompt engineering was going to be a new role in our companies, but now we understand that prompt engineering is a core skill that everybody needs to understand. I've seen our employees in my company writing prompts. It's like 2, 3 words, 4, 5 words, and they ask a question and they get it out. But drop me an email sometime, I'll send you the prompts that I write. A prompt that I write is never less than half a page. Because I go into so much detail. I say, do this, and do this, and do this, and do this, and do that. I go into great detail because I know the moment I don't specify something, the AI makes its own assumptions and goes on its own tangent. So it's so important, especially for journalists, for you all to have proper training courses on how to prompt effectively. There are lots of frameworks, there are lots of very, very easy ways to fill in like a template every time you prompt the role, the objective, what to do, what not to do. And that, I think, is the main thing. First, learning how to prompt, but then second, knowing how to then evaluate it. And I mean, somebody asked me to use AI effectively, what are the two main skills you need to have? And it was really funny. First was obviously descriptive writing. You need to be able to describe your task in high level of detail. Second is reading comprehension. You need to be able to take what comes out and actually be able to use discernment to go through it and understand it. So you're going back to school. The key skills now to be able to use AI is reading and comprehension, which I think people are losing more and more because of social media, and that's why they don't use AI effectively. But eventually, when AI comes up with an output, the responsibility lies with the person who got that output. And you got to understand what biases exist and all that. But it comes to how well you guide the AI.
Yeah.
You don't let the AI guide you. You got to take control of the AI. And that's where the whole skill of prompting and all that comes in. Yeah?
Before I open up this session to the audience for questions, I'd like to ask Mr. Shekhar one instance where you think AI, can you share with us a success story, either from India today or from the global perspective, where AI truly enhanced a journalistic product?
There will be quite a few. For instance, today at India Today Group, we are doing lots of newsletters, right? Now, those newsletters were always done manually. Today, you're able to tell machine that here's my lineup, here's what I want to select, and it goes. So it does the manual part and gives the output to you, for you to then sit down, see if it gave you the output that you were needing. So we are able to kind of, automate a lot of those tasks, which was earlier needing time, effort, manpower, and everything. And, and lots of such cases, like our AI anchor, Sana, while I said she has really not kept with intelligence, but, we've given data to her to read. Now, data, we had to validate. Editors absolutely must remain responsible and own the whole publishing process. We can't, delegate this responsibility to anybody else, including AI. So we give data to Sana. She goes to television and does the weather bulletins. Now, I don't need to have an anchor devote time to something which is so routine. So it's also creating a lot of those bands. There are lots of such stories, not only in India, internationally also. You read stories about New York Times, Financial Times, BBC. Organizations like BBC are also doing a lot of these things, including translations. We do an interview with the Prime Minister with 4 of our anchors in Hindi, and we broadcast it in 7 languages. Voice modulation, voice cloning, all done through machine, but absolutely human reviewed, because machines can get things wrong. The words can be misunderstood and mistranslated. So you can't really rely on that. And prompt part that Dr. Ramesh talked about is actually becoming the most clear thing. Prompt is nothing but the editorial guidelines or the brief of the story that we talk about. Prompt is an engineering word, but in our parlance, it's what we do. The editor tells us, we have to do this story. Now we have to tell the machine how to do that story. Earlier, we would have people to shout at saying, I told you to do this. What have you done? Now the machine tells you, boss, the brief that you gave was not good enough. You have to give proper brief to give proper output, So that's where this whole prompting, detailing of what is required. A lot of this because our tasks are actually very repetitive, the repetitive part can actually be, automated. So that's how we need to move a step at a time, and it's working.
All right, so basically editors and journalists can't just blame other people. All right, let's open this session up for some questions and answers. ප්‍රේක්ෂකයන්ට මතක් කරන්න කැමතියි නිවුස් රූම් වල AI භාවිතය ගැන ගැටලු තියෙනවා නම් සිංහල භාෂාවෙන් හරි දමිළ භාෂාවෙන් හරි ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න අවස්ථාව මේක. Yes. We have a mic over there to Mr. Lopez, please.
Hi, thank you for this wonderful session, and I think I'm trying to get my prompt right, so that I'm doing that half a page, Ramesh. Right? So my question is to Sailesh, but I would appreciate if others could also chip in. The recent Reuters report, basically on technological trends, basically indicated that while AI is positive, there is a challenge in regard to when it comes to monetization in the future, because the users would rather look at using an AI agent than coming to the news platforms and websites, right? And when Alki was talking, she was mentioning about why can't we as a region come together and look at potential litigation with AI organizations so that when they use our content, that we do get a certain revenue or we have certain ways of managing it, right? Now, Sri Lanka, we are still at the initial primitive phases, but I see India today all have gone far ahead, and Dialog, definitely we know where Dialog is, right, being a premier telco company. My question to Sailesh is Sailesh, changing the editorial mindset to adapt to AI, right? How difficult was it? What were some of the strategies that you used? And in regard to the future challenge of information consumption using AI agents, right? How do you see we could overcome that?
Yeah, I guess it requires, so from a mind shift perspective, I can assure you, human beings are the same everywhere, whether it's India, Sri Lanka, or the US. Are my newsrooms very ready to adapt it? No. Has it been easy? No. So, but it's a continuous work. I guess it's also a question of what the mandate is. So if the company, like our vice chairperson, she drives the business, she says, our newsrooms are not afraid of using technology. And India Today Group, if you actually look at the history, has been at the forefront of using cutting-edge technology all over. We launched Sana 2 years ago. Somebody thought it was a gimmick. A lot of people did it. It faded out, but we still have it. In fact, we have more AI anchors today than we had 2 years ago. We are also, trying to see, we have a very popular anchor. Now we said, okay, we'll do an anchor 2.0 of that person, so that if she is not in the newsroom and she's out reporting, maybe her counterpart, which is an AI-generated thing, voice cloned, everything looks, is in studio, able to interact, still deliver news, which is in the voice. So we're doing those things. It requires mandate, it requires the willingness. The other thing that I've seen in newsrooms, and I'm sure it's true for our friends here also, everybody is using, a ChatGPT or a Gemini in one form or the other. It's just that we are not very happy to publicly acknowledge it, because we don't want to say, oh, I used ChatGPT to produce this. What's the harm? What's the harm in saying I was smarter, that the work that I was doing in 1 hour, I'm now able to do in 30 minutes. And I'm able to do 2 more things, which I was just not able to do earlier, and I so loved to, or wanted always to do that. So it's the same story everywhere. The problem is that when you use ChatGPT every day in an unstructured manner, it will throw up all sorts of things. And the biggest challenge that it's creating for people like us, who, when they publish, are supposed to be the sources that people trust, we must be absolutely sure that what I've got from ChatGPT is absolutely reliable or not. How do I do that? So that's where I still have to work, and I still have to be responsible. That, okay, this brought my task together quickly, but I still need to give it all the diligence that it requires before I publish it. And that can be a process. A lot of this can be a process, so that I'm now devoting time to things that matter to journalism. Did I answer your question? So that part I didn't understand, Lokesh, because how do AI agents deliver news? AI agents, so like I worked with Microsoft. It's a platform, Google is a platform. They take feeds from you and they repurpose and present it the manner they deem fit, and you get money from it. So if making money is one part which is important, yes, it works. But AI agents, how do I as a user get an AI agent to do those things? Yes, somebody will create those which is going to collate news from, say, you, from, say, Palki's organization or India Today Group or the Times of India or his company, and give you a feed. So you build that feed. Somebody will give you the ability, okay, go check, and then you get it. But it's still your story, right? It's just a distribution method.
All right, I'm so sorry. Mr. Lopez, I'm sure Mr. Shekhar can
that's
find
fine.
you later on in the audience. We may give...
Just one point. So all these chat GPTs have started attributing to the sources now. And you click and you can go to the publisher's site.
I mean,
more later, yeah.
I'll give a quick answer to that. So even in the world of AI agents, it's still got to draw from sources. Still, they're not powerful enough to go and monitor every phone feed, use satellites, CCTV, whatever, and build its own news stories. And there, too, there's a hierarchy of credibility. So the AI agents themselves know which are the credible sources. And there was an interview with Sam Altman last week at TED Talk. And one of the questions that was posed to him, and he wasn't very happy, but he finally agreed to it, was to take a look at if a certain search uses a certain site, the first step is to be able to attribute to that.
Yeah.
But then once you attribute, how do you build a monetization model around that as well? Because they are making money out of this. How do you start? And that's something that journalists in the region can lobby for, because that is your intent. And that, I think, could be an amazing business model for you all going forward, because more and more people will be using these tools. And the more credible your sources are, the more these AI agents and whatever will be drawing from this. So I think that's quite a viable model going forward, but the pressure needs to go on to the tech companies for that.
Yeah, I'll ask very quickly. Check. Yes. So right now, the prompt engineering part is very important. I do agree. But I see that prompt engineering is like a command prompt in the earlier machines. So right now we have a graphical user interface. So can't we come over something like that to help journalists, something graphical user interface, not a command line prompt? Then I think, because we have a lot of traditional journalists right now with a lot of experience, so they can easily use the AI. What is your point of view in the downline? Can't we do that?
I mean, like I said earlier, most of the prompts that I write, if you come to office, I'll show you, minimum is about half a page, but usually my prompts go to about 2 or 3 pages. But that doesn't mean I write all 2-3 pages every time. There are certain sections on context, grammar, style, which I've written earlier, which I've refined over time. And now I have these reusable sections which I built, where every time I have a new prompt, I copy and paste this and build my whole prompt there. So even within our organization, what we've told our staff is the push is not towards building a prompt, but building reusable prompts. Reusable prompt sections, which then become our IP. That could be, you have reusable prompts, which will bring the ethos and the style of the runner. And that becomes your IP, which means that if the person who did it today is not there tomorrow, you can still bring in those prompts and still maintain that continuity in your organization as well. Yeah. So really the key is how you can build those templates and then start to have libraries of these reusable sections that you can bring in to bring your prompt. I mean, usually most of the stuff we do for our corporate work, the prompt's about 3 or 4 pages. because we go into so much detail on corporate guidelines, everything on marketing, image generation. It's 3, 4, 5 pages of the prompt that we build. But for that particular task, it may be only 10, 12 lines that we will build. The rest is all reusable stuff that we build in. And that's why it's called prompt engineering. Engineering is the process of not doing something once, but refining it so that you can keep reusing it over and over again. So there's a big difference between prompting and prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is the process of being able to take something, refine it, test it, refine it, to a level where then you can keep reusing it after that going forward.
I think, Mr. President, the next agenda item should be for SLIMFA to organize a prompt engineering class. I think we'll have time for one more question.
Yeah,
Please
exactly.
keep it brief.
I also came to that end. Might be need a prompt engineering class for everyone. For this now, there are more super machines also coming for 0, 1 has been expanded to more numbers, and binary numbers are going to be changed. So that's another technical side. So what I want to ask is simply thing. I know the new generations are not afraid for AI. They have been, prompt is not a problem for them. They have been finding it out and they are writing it, as you said. Yes, the prompt is going to be a very big one, and clear it and get the detail properly. As Kandu said, for newsroom, there's no guide in here. So what I like to ask is, in India, do we have a guide? Like where to start and where to end? And as always, AI is the assistant, not the boss. So do we have a guide in India for that thing?
Before you answer that question, we'll take another question. Himal has been trying to ask you some questions.
Hi, just one quick question. How soon are we anticipating, if at all, the arrival of AGI? And if and when it does arrive, what will be the implications of that for media and journalism as an industry, in terms of employment, especially?
AGI. So, artificial general intelligence.
No, okay, yeah.
That's
okay.
I'll answer the second one. Maybe coming to answer the second one. AGI is, we don't have AGI yet. These systems are extremely intelligent, but AGI is systems that can learn and adapt new things on their own. But currently, with all the AI systems, they have to be trained every single time with data being curated by people, or people creating the data. These AI systems are extremely powerful and they can do a lot of things, but they're also extremely bad at a lot of things. And it still needs human intervention to fix those things which are bad. And that's going to take time. It's a whole larger philosophical discussion on what AGI is. The current AI that's there, you can argue that it is AGI. But the definition of AGI is the ability to be able to adapt and evolve on their own. I mean, it could be anything from 5 years to 50 years, but it's not anytime soon. There's a lot of talk about it. It's very good for the media. It's very good to keep the narrative going and the valuations of their companies high. But I think what we have now is dangerous enough. AGI is not going to make the big difference going forward. AGI is all about how much autonomy, how much control you give it. It's got to be able to run on its own. And it's not going to be very different to what's happening now. That's just a definition. It really depends on what it can do and the level of autonomy that it has. So it could be, I mean, I don't think my personal feeling is it's not going to be in the next 10 years or so. I could be wrong. But I think it's going to take some time. But what we have now is dangerous enough. I think the conversation on AGI, it'll happen. If it happens, we'll deal with it. But I think what we have now is a lot more dangerous, and we've got to deal with what's there now, with what can be done with AI at the moment.
Khalindu, before we wrap up, do you have anything to add to that?
I think, no, like not about that specific thing, but what I want to say is that we have to be transparent with it, because if we use AI for our content, I think we should be letting our audience know that we used AI for this content, because there should be a disclaimer. We should be transparent about it, because otherwise, I believe our credibility, if we try to hide that we used AI to get something done, whether it be data collection or image generation or anything. We have to be transparent about it so we can make people talk about it also, because we can show them the positive side of artificial intelligence.
That's a great point you made, especially for us Sri Lankan journalists, the distinction of making, the importance of making that distinction. All right, as much as we'd love to go on, we have to move on with the day's agenda. Thank you very much for being a very engaged and patient and attentive audience. And thank you to the panelists.
Thank you for inviting.
Over to you, Sharifa.
Thank you very much once again to the panelists and also to our moderator, Kalani. Thank you very much for that well-moderated session. And thank you very much to the audience for being attentive and engaging as well. So before we break, I'd like to inform you about two exciting workshops which is happening right after the break. In track A, we have the Mobile Journalism Masterclass facilitated by Siddhant Sibal, Assistant Editor at WION, and Ruwan Bogamur, Consultant at Mojo News. This workshop will be held at the Gregory Room. And in track B, we have the Data Science Workshop facilitated by Shihar Anis, Consultant Editor at Economy Next, and Shihan Barnage, Senior Journalist Consultant. And this workshop will take place at the London Room. So please note that the workshops will only be accessible to participants who are registered at our registration desk this morning. Thank you so much. Please move on to the breakout rooms right after the break. That is in 20 minutes' time. Thank you.